Good morning. Welcome to the United States Sports Academy and our weekly sports talk program. With us this morning is Dr. Brett Simmenmacher, our chair of sports coaching, and Dr. Fred Cromartie, our director of doctoral studies. I'm Steve Butler, and I'm your host for this weekly program. Today, we're going to talk about the National Football League. Last week, a couple teams that had a bye in week 4 played their 4th game of the season. So everybody in the National Football League has now played 4 games. So we're kind of at the quarter pole of the season. And you hear a lot of coaches talk frequently about dividing the season into 4 quarters.
Yep.
And win each quarter. And so what we're going to talk a little bit about today is where we stand at the end of 1/4 of the season. So as we sit here at the 1 quarter pole, guys, who is your biggest surprise so far on the positive side?
I'd say the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
At this particular juncture, being undefeated, with all of the problems that they've had in the past, but yet they've got Cam Newton in that. I just think that it's amazing that they're playing at the caliber that they are, but there's still a good part of the season left.
Yep, that's true. And what Cam Newton go to college? Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Brett,
Blaine College in Texas.
Being that I'm from Ohio, I'm going to have to say the Bengals. Because typically it's Baltimore and Pittsburgh usually are typically the teams that beat in that conference, and they still are. But with Cincinnati being undefeated still and playing pretty well, actually.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think Carolina and Cincinnati are great stories. I personally think the biggest surprise to me so far has been the Atlanta Falcons. I think Dan Quinn has come in there and brought we're going to talk a little bit in a couple minutes about the undefeated teams. You mentioned Cincinnati, but Atlanta is one of the undefeated teams as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that Dan Quinn has brought that mentality from the Seahawks about they've been behind by 10 points or more in the 4th quarter in 3 of the 5 games. And they've been behind in the 4th quarter in all 5 games. So they're getting that mentality of they think they're going to win. And I think that goes a long way towards being successful in close games.
True, but the one piece of their puzzle that has been there and showed up for all 4 games to ensure that they're there and instrumentally have the opportunity to win is Julio Jones. You take him out of the equation, that changes the whole picture for Matt Ryan. And that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration with all of the teams. I think another team that relies heavily on pretty much one player is the Denver Broncos. They're still undefeated right now, too. Manning has not looked as great as he has in the past, but they're still winning. Their defense is just phenomenal, and it's been a number of different players on the defense that have stepped up in that. So they look really good. I think Cincinnati is a complete team right now. Coach Lewis has got them playing unbelievably, and they believe in each other. Excuse me.
You're right. And Julio Jones, by the way, is from Foley, Alabama, just about 12 miles from here. And then he went to, I can't remember where he went to college.
He's a little bit further than 12 miles.
But let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Who's your biggest surprise on the negative side? Who's been the biggest disappointment so far, Brett?
I'd say the Indianapolis Colts, but their quarterback, the star of the future is down. So
yeah.
You can probably kind of expect that, but I'd say that's a little surprising to me. Even when he was playing, they weren't doing well.
Yeah, the good thing if you're a Colts fan though is they're still in first place in the division because the division's horrible.
Right.
I'd have to say the Steelers, and the reason is again you lose Ben Roethlisberger, and most of us are akin to the fact and expect that there's going to be a person that gets right in there, steps up and everything, but they ran into a situation where they didn't really have a number 2. They had to go out and they had to get him, and it's really showing and telling right now that there's a complete different style of play from Michael Vick to Big Ben, and the simple fact of the matter is the guys haven't gotten on the same page. Well, it's a matter of practice, but in a matter of practice, these guys are professionals. They should be able to get together and communicate and do what they necessarily need to do. And I think Coach Tomlin is going to get them there. But as of right now, it's just sort of they look sort of in disarray, and that's inappropriate for me. The Steelers have never looked like that.
what they say on TV, the Steelers had 3 head coaches in 55 years.
Yeah.
Since 1969.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But another thing that hurt the Steelers was Mike Vick's first start was on a Thursday night.
True.
So they only had
Didn't have time.
2 days of practice to get him ready. I agree with both of you. You know, of course, both my boys went to school in Pittsburgh, so I kind of became a Steelers fan. But I think the Colts too, but the Colts are still in that division because it's so bad. But I didn't think the Saints were going to be really good, but I didn't think they were going to be historically horrible. I mean, they are really, really bad. And of course, we still got the Detroit Lions up there,
Right.
the only team that's 0-5. And
the Chicago Bears aren't much better, but we're not going to go there. Hey, they stumbled into those 2 wins.
Well, that's all right.
yeah,
They'd be lucky to do good.
yeah, you talked about Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning. They won Sunday without scoring off. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the next topic we have here. This is the first time in NFL history that there's been 6 undefeated teams after 5 weeks of the season. Of course, the Patriots have had their bye already, so they're only 4-0. But we played 5 weeks, and there's 6 undefeated teams, and that has never happened before. The Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Denver Broncos, the Green Bay Packers, and the New England Patriots are all 6-0. And we have the schedule for those 6 teams for the remainder of the season. So when we take a look at these 6 teams, which one of these teams do you think has the best chance of going undefeated?
Well, you got to go with. I'm gonna look at it in totality with both leagues, and I think it's the Patriots and I think it's the Packers. Both complete teams. Packers have overcome a lot of adversity with players being out in that. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. There's no question about it. One of the best in the league. We know on the other side is Tom Brady, but once we get past Cheatgate and all that other stuff, they're still a darn good team. So the simple fact of the matter is, I think from head to toe, those 2 teams are 2 of the best, and people have picked them from day one.
I have to agree with both those teams. But I think New England has the better chance because I think their schedule is a little bit easier than the Packers.
Okay, playing Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota. Okay, no, I think you got to go the other way. Green Bay's got the easier schedule. NFC North.
Right,
is
that's what I'm saying.
Well, they got to beat themselves, but they don't get a chance to play themselves.
Right.
Let's see, if we look at the schedule, you know, Green Bay does have to play at Denver, and so do the Patriots. They both play at Denver. Green Bay's other tough games, you know, at Minnesota is no cakewalk this year. The Vikings are playing better, but like you said, they have the Bears and the Lions. They have the Lions twice actually. They've already played the Bears once, and then they have late in the season they have a game at Arizona, which could be tough. The Patriots looks like the toughest game on their schedule is at Denver, and then the Patriots are lucky enough to play the NFC East this year. They've already played the Cowboys, but they've got the Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles left from that division. So and Washington. So that should, you know, they can't seem to beat the Giants in the Super Bowl, but they seem to crush them when they play them in the regular season. One time, even in the same year that they lost to them in the Super Bowl, they crushed them during the regular season. So, you know, the only possible, how cool would it be to have the Green Bay Packers and New England Patriots both be 18-0 playing in the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
That would be.
Yeah.
There's also a possibility that it could be Cincinnati and Green Bay in the Super Bowl. Because of the way teams play each other, those are the only 2 possible combinations of undefeated teams in the Super Bowl. And I will say I am a Miami Dolphin season ticket holder from back in the 70s, and as we know, the 72 Dolphins were the last undefeated team. And unlike Mercury Morris and some of those other clowns down there, I rooted for the Patriots the year they were 18-0 in the Super Bowl, and I like to see perfection. I think it's good for the sport. But you know,
you didn't root for the Bears?
Huh? The Bears weren't undefeated. They
had a chance.
They lost to the Dolphins during the regular season.
I know.
Dan Marino went off on a Monday night. But you know, one of the things we hear all the time about the NFL is parity. And do you think the fact that there are 6 undefeated teams this late in the season, you know, puts a damper on that idea of parity in the NFL?
I really don't. I think if you look at a lot of the teams that are undefeated, I think it all goes back to coaching. And the Patriots have had Belichick since what, 2000? There's been a continuity within that organization, coaching-wise, at the top for the last 15 years.
And it's almost like Belichick and Brady is one word.
Right.
They say when you talk about great teams, you talk about Nolan Bradshaw, Shula, and Greasy. But now it seems like Belichick and Brady is one word.
Belichick, Brady, and cheating.
Yeah,
And then, with the Packers, you got Rodgers has been there for, however many years he's been there, and their coach has been there for quite a few years now.
For me, I think it speaks volumes in terms of this whole concept of parity in that, because you're looking at it. The teams that are undefeated right now, they've had fewer injuries, or if they've had major injuries, they've been able to go out on the open market, bring in those players that immediately get right in there and understand the system and play well. It's not only the coaching aspect of it, but you're looking at teams that have quality individuals and players at key positions where they need it to be. And it also goes back to the fact that it takes away that whole concept of one team or a couple of teams being considered dynasties, where we had the old Cowboys, we had the old Steelers, we had the old Patriots. The fact of the matter is we don't have single dynasties any longer.
and the 80s 49ers too.
That's true.
70s Steelers.
But we don't want to bring up the
49ers.
49ers now because they're non-existent.
Well, and then another thing that all these teams have is a great quarterback.
Yeah,
And a great coach, great quarterback.
but great defensive presence though too.
And I think another thing that along those same lines, some of these college football programs that are out there put out some talent.
Yeah.
And immediate talent that can come in, like your Julio Jones. I mean, look at, Cooper from Alabama last year.
Yeah.
He comes into Oakland, he's their top receiver. I mean, without him, I don't think they could win 2 games right now.
And the same year that Julio Jones came out, AJ Green came out
yeah.
from Georgia, and we see what the impact he has with the Bengals, and they traded like 4 or 5 picks to move up to get him. So you're right.
And I think a lot of it's on the defensive side of the ball.
Sure.
Those guys make an immediate impact on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, it goes back to this whole issue of character.
Right.
You bring in these guys, they might have questionable character beforehand or whatever, but once you get them in the fold and these veterans get a hold of them, these teams right now, these veteran players are saying, look, we've had enough of all this shenanigans. We've had enough of all this garbage and this individuality and all this. Let's come together as a team. If you don't think you can do that, let management know so we can get you out of here. We are tired of competing and beating our brains in and year out for 1 or 2 guys to step up, mess up, then all of a sudden we're sliding. No, we don't want that. And these teams are fighting. I mean, fighting week in and week out to stay where they're at so they have an opportunity to get to the pinnacle, which is the Super Bowl. The fact of the matter is that, again, we go back to this whole dynasty stage. You're not going to see it for a long time, the same team year in and year out going to the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen.
We talked a couple minutes ago about parity. One of the things that I think lets us know that parity is still alive and well. I always like to look at the standings when it's been an odd number of games. Right now, 17 of the 32 teams are either 3-2 or 2-3, and so there still is a lot of parity there. Okay, so let's take a look at these 6 teams. Which one do you think will be the first team to lose of these 6?
Carolina Panthers.
That's who I said.
They're at Seattle.
Yes.
That's a tough place to play.
Seattle's 2-3. I think Russell Wilson's he's like 12-11 on the road and 19-2 at home, or something ridiculous like that.
So I'm going to say, like I always have said since I started coaching, it's tough to go on. I don't care what level you play, or what league you play in, or whatever. It's tough to go on the road and win.
Especially when you got a team that's the 2-time defending NFC champions who are 2-3 right now, and need to win desperately. Well, we've got some games down the road. The Falcons and Carolina play twice. Carolina, in addition to playing Atlanta twice, has to play Green Bay. The Bengals have to play at Denver. Denver plays actually Green Bay, New England, and Cincinnati. And Green Bay plays Denver and Carolina. And the only other feeding team that the Patriots have to play is at Denver in about week 11. So let's wrap this thing up. Right now, 1 quarter way in the season, who's your 2 Super Bowl teams?
I Gonna go back. I hate to say it, but I think Green Bay Patriots.
We did that once when Brett Favre was quarterback.
Well, I didn't like them then, and I still don't like the Packers, but I'm picking them. I gotta go with the NFC Central.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the Bengals and the Panthers.
Okay.
That's way out on that limb. I hear you cracking now.
Hey, you want to see a new team?
I
Want to
know.
see a new team?
And you know, it would be good because, you know, Andy Dalton's always had the reputation of being a great regular season quarterback, horrible postseason quarterback. So I'd like to see him do well also. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots in Super Bowl. This is the big one, Super Bowl 5-0.
I don't know.
Big 50. Did I read it that they're going to start going to numbers now instead of Roman numerals?
Yeah, numbers.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you notice
Because most of the people don't understand the Roman numerals.
you notice that the 50-yard line on every field is painted gold now for the golden anniversary. But it's really not the 50th Super Bowl because the first two weren't called the Super Bowl; they're called the AFC and NFC Championship game. Okay, so we've got who'd you say?
Carolina
And
the
Cincinnati. I've got New England and Atlanta. You've got New England and Green Bay.
Yeah.
So
So who's a dark horse though that could come up out of nowhere and have an impact?
I wouldn't count Seattle out just yet.
Don't count Seattle out. I'm saying after this week, because they have a bye week, don't sleep on Dallas.
Dallas announced yesterday.
Don't sleep on Dallas. Castle is coming in,
Yeah.
and he
And
the
they're
reason
looking for a
they
new running back.
and yeah, that's
So
true.
they announced yesterday that Castle would start, and you remember the 1 year Brady tore up his knee. Castle went 11-5 with
Yep.
the Patriots.
Yep.
All right, so there we have it. Those are our Super Bowl predictions. One week into the season, maybe when we come back at the halfway mark, we'll still have 3 or 4 undefeated teams. We can't have this many because we have some games coming up next week between undefeated teams. But we'll keep sending us your emails, giving us suggested topics. We can talk about any sport you want us to talk about. We tend to focus a little bit on football and baseball this time of year, but there certainly are other sports out there. And so send us in your topics at sportstalk@ussa.edu. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Have a great week in sports.
DeMarco Murray wants to come back to the Cowboys because the Eagles breached their contract.